I can confidently say I'm Brent Leary.
With a little less confidence, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, 9.2, I'm Paul Greenberg.
That's enough for us to go ahead and do this show we call the CRM Playaz. That was a little different, right? That was
Do we have any confidence in the name of the show?
Not at all, but you know.
I know. On a scale of 1 to 10, 0.
You know that term, fake it till you make it?
Yeah.
What do you think we've been doing for the last 13 years?
I know. Still haven't made it, though.
No, well, we're good at faking it. So
yeah, we sure are. We managed to keep a 13-year-old fraud up.
And we were able to extend this early intro banter long enough so that our usual number one commenter got in at number one.
Ooh. Now, this one, I'm guessing, is Runic Viking.
I'm not taking a guess at all at that. That's
well, that double dot over the O wants me to make it a Nordic language of some sort.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Icelandic? I'm going to say Icelandic.
All right.
Or Runic Viking. That's my other.
Or Pig Latin. All right. So, Spin, let us know what language, and I'm guessing that's some form of hello, greeting, or something like that, which is always nice to get from you.
It might be. It might say I've got a cold. Cold.
Okay.
And I vel snurdum.
Yeah. Okay.
That does sound, and viral lugum. So we have virus, snot, cold, got. Right. So
we move on.
This one tricky.
Yeah, it's not good. All right, there it is. It's Icelandic. You're right.
Good guess.
It means good evening in the well-groomed, venerable rhyme.
Wow. Sven, your use of creative English is astonishing too, I have to say.
I'm just glad Sven has made it here, because I have a feeling, because this time the show is actually not being run from my personal LinkedIn profile. It's actually being run from what's this page called again?
PPN.
Oh, what does that stand for, though?
Oh, Playaz Productions Network.
Yeah, that. This is the first time we're doing this. This is a brand new thing, which we will be getting into a lot more. What, Monday? I guess
Monday. Yeah, Monday. Big announcement day. We'll be talking to you about multiple things. Just keep PPN in your heads through Monday, and then you can let it float away.
Wow. I thought you were going to say keep PPN in your thoughts and prayers. Like, wow.
No, we're not on life support yet.
We're going out already?
That's right.
How little we knew.
Let's put it this way. There's a reason we didn't call it PPN Plus.
Anyway, it is Thursday afternoon. It is the CRM Playaz. We're glad to see you. We have one, two great guests coming up very shortly.
It sounds like we should be inserting a commercial at this point.
It really
we'll be back in just a minute.
In two. No, not doing the Chuck Rollery thing again. No, we do have great guests. Actually, one guest, well, we've known them both for years.
Yeah.
One we've been trying to get on for a while, and he is joining us a little, a couple of minutes. One we had to bring on because there's been this celebration going on that I know you noticed. A bunch of our friends at SAP, I've been seeing this, this mention of SAP 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what the heck is SAP 50? It could be a number of things. But really? What it turns out to be, well, could be.
I can literally not think of one thing it can be other than what it is.
Okay, well, I was trying to add a little bit of, I couldn't think of anything. But anyway, 1972, the year. Matter of fact, before we bring this person on, I screen scrape a little video that might set the stage. Here we go.
All right.
50 years ago, man had only recently stepped on the moon, and aliens were invading rock and roll as David Bowie introduced Ziggy Stardust. Computers were giant, and phone booths were on every corner. And while most of Germany was cheering for the West German team in the European Championship, a group of visionaries banded together to change the way businesses run forever.
I cut it off at that point because it's like a 13-minute long, but it's really good, well done video.
Yeah.
Anyway, SAP. This is the year that SAP turns 50. 1970.
Happy 50.
What were you doing in 1972?
You don't want to know. I'll just put it this way. There was at one point, the things I was doing led to the FBI breaking into my apartment and crashing it.
So you stormed the Capitol?
No.
I'm just.
The FBI stormed my apartment.
Oh.
Right. But this was in the 1972, in fact.
Did it happen on January 6th, 1972?
No. Nope.
It's close enough.
That's what I was doing in 1972.
You know what I was doing in 1972?
Nope. What?
I was about to probably, because I can't really remember. I'm sure what I was getting ready to do was watch my first Rams game or something like that.
You were doing that. Wait, you were 4?
You know,
1972.
I was getting into it. Matter of fact, you see what I'm wearing right now. It's a throwback.
Right.
To the year. This is the first Rams logo. So I thought, 50-year celebration, SAP. I'd bring back some of the, the Rams stuff. Matter of fact, got some good Rams reading material for the train.
Oh, it came.
Flight. Yes, for the flight to Austin, Texas next week. But that's either here or there. All right. So SAP is celebrating its 50th. And we thought, since we know a lot of really good people at SAP.
Yeah, we sure do.
And we've been able to, over the years, do some really interesting things with SAP, either individually or as a players. Remember, I think our very first Players episode at an event was at an SAP Sapphire event, right?
Was it?
Remember John Burton?
Oh, yeah, of course. That was him.
I think that.
Oh, that's right. Well, that was, that's right. We recorded the event in that room. Yeah. I think Margot Heiligman set us up to record that event in that room, and John was our guest. And I remember I was fixated on his Hawaiian shirt.
I remember making fun of the Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
It was hilarious. But John
that was a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
All right.
Sitting in chairs at the front.
Yeah. So I know your relationship to SAP goes back even farther than that. We've both had opportunities, and we love a lot of the people over there. And one of the folks that we love, I'm not going to let you do your usual introduction because we don't have as much time. But I know how much you love our next guest, Samir Patel.
Yes, one of the loves of my life, right there.
Sending all that love back, man.
What I love about this is it is summertime, and my man is sporting a vest. He's got the summer vest on as we speak. I thought he might do this. I wasn't sure.
100%.
Man, you do not let me down.
Ever. So can I jump in on the what was I doing in 1972 question?
Yeah.
Sure.
I was not even an idea.
Oh my God!
I was not even an option, a thought, a possibility, maybe even in 72.
Dude, you don't have to make it.
So now I'm getting off the show. I graduated college already. Right? I'm leaving.
Feeling every gray beard hair in my.
Why I shave it.
There you go.
That's right.
Man, thanks for taking time to do this.
Yeah.
Happy 50th. Happy 50th.
Thank you. It's been an incredible celebration worldwide, as you guys have probably seen. Yeah?
So what does SAP at 50 mean to you?
So many things, man. I mean, I think primarily it's the culture, to be honest, right? As you guys and I go way back, right? I spent a good chunk of time on the success factor side, right? Years ago, I left, and I had some time away to really think through, right, what this company is about. And it's funny. I've got this question thrown at me when I was at SAP SuccessFactors back then, and then for people who were looking to join, and then I left, and they're like, "Hey, you'll probably get an objective opinion. I'm looking at going to SAP. What do you think?" And then since I've been here, we obviously built out a whole new team in CX, as you guys know. And when I get this culture question, I have the same answer, which just sort of I winged it the first time, and I was like, "That's actually really true, and that is truly how I feel," versus being some sort of scripted answer, right? Which is that, people are like, "Well, what's it like to work there?" I was like, "Listen, this is a straight up answer for you, right? Which is, just like any company and any job, you may not like what you're doing at a certain time, which is normal. You not like, but not enjoy, right? Or you've got just going to live this life. You may even not like who you're working for. But I'm yet to meet somebody who says, I don't like SAP, right? And there's very different answers, right? And I think it's this, and I don't think it's in an HR manual or it's on any advertising billboard, but there's a cumulative North Star that people end up having in this company that kind of guides you to do the right thing being, be collaborative, ask for context, don't judge. And I want to say that this company has a way of fighting back when people break some of those rules, right? Without, not the company, I mean the collective, right? Because they hold that very dear to themselves. Because I think it's made this company what it's made. It's made this company what it is, frankly, right? And it's allowed it to live through all the changes in technology that have been there and the ups and the downs over the years. And it's amazing how people like that stay at this company for a really long time. And if that's not like what every company has different culture. If that's not yours, it's an uncomfortable place to be in because people really value the collaborative nature of how they work together, right? So that to me is like a remarkable thing that over the 50 years has been able to kind of hold on to, and in spite of all of the changes, right? And then obviously, I mean, it's for all of us who've been in tech, I mean, when you look at any company and you look back and you can like, holy crap, 100,000 employees, 140 countries, over 400,000 customers. That is a remarkable feat, right? For a company, it just is remarkable, right? So those are, to me, that kind of fuels, I think, the next 50 years, right? That's what a foundation, right? To be able to evolve, because you have to evolve because the technology around us is and innovation is. But when you have those two things as rock solid, elements of the floor beneath you, there's a lot you can do.
So SAP has obviously been evolving over those years from the standpoint of let's say everything ranging from its technology stack to its environmental stances to, just as a company in every facet. Let's say we're looking, forget 50 years from now, I won't be around to verify that, but
you never know.
No.
Well, if I make it to 127, I may be around to haunt you. That's that might be different. But for the next, let's call it 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right, in 5 years, what do you see as the most significant evolutionary change in SAP will be in that 5 years?
Well, and I think there's sort of different facets to that, right? Like the one, without a doubt, right, is, this is another trait of this company. When it decides to get behind something, almost to a fault, it gets behind something, right? And it doesn't leave it till it's done, right? Combine that with the fact that, employees here really get behind, whether it's disagree and commit or fully behind it, they get behind stuff, right? So you have that lever going. And so no doubt that, sustainability, right, will be something that will define this company in many ways, and the focus on sustainability, right? Whether it's inward in how we work every day or it's what we're doing, on the product side. And, the thing that I think hard about is like, when you think about the ability to make impact on things like sustainability. I mean, it's one thing to have a brand slogan and say, hey, we're sustainable and we want to sort of get behind it. But when you have spent the last 50 years powering, the supply chains of the planet, right? Like as Christian says, the value flows and the material flows of businesses, it's not happy talk, right? Like the infrastructure on which sustainability can have positive, documentable, quantifiable impact rests on, having the technology that powers the supply chains, right? And that's where you actually embed it. And then, so that I can call this, this conversation with you a business expense, I have to now make a plug for CX, right? and also say that the way a customer manifests and exposes what's happening on sustainability within their organization to their customers, you can always wait to publish it in your annual report and give people 5 pages about what you do on sustainability, but you have another option, which is expose it via your front-end technology stack to their customers, right? So the ability for CX to be that, because it's that final mile at the edge of the organization that you use to speak to your own customers or your partners or your suppliers, right? Our ability to expose what our organization is doing within the flow of processes is a remarkable opportunity for us, right? To be able to expose it right at the point of purchase or at the point of decision when customers are making decisions. So it's not that you hope that you read the annual report or some article. It's within the flow of the experience, right, with the customer. So I think to me, sustainability is the one big one. I think the second big one too is, let's use the most bastardized, abused word in enterprise software. One of the phrases, right? Not the only one, but one of the phrases, which is digital transformation, business transformation, right? I actually do honestly believe, and you guys have known me long enough to not bring up stuff that I don't, truly get behind and believe, right? The ability to really sort of do true industry-based process transformation, right? I don't think we've really realized that as we've spent the last decade getting very cloudified, which was normal. It's the first phase, right? You get into the cloud. But the telemetry that you have in your applications, the ability to connect different applications when it's cloud to cloud is 10x better than, doing it in a static or a localized environment, right? So I think that, when we have, for example, you take automotive, right? And when you have such situations where, today SAP is in a position where we're powering not just the technology stack of the automobile manufacturers that we all know, but their suppliers and their suppliers. How are you bringing connectivity to do true industry-based process transformation across all of these companies that are all using systems that we have, right? And they're in the cloud. We move out of these notions of sort of selling and having these edge process conversations around how do I just fix something that is valuable to this one person inside an organization or one department, to saying, what does that process actually need to look like? And if it needs to go and dive deep into the supply chain, then so be it. If it needs to touch some other application in field service, so be it, right? That level of transformation, I think, is something, that really, really will define how, we're looking at building technology. Right? So,
okay.
Well, that's a very achievable 5-year goal, right? Like that's not a 50-year goal.
Thank God.
No.
Don't have any worries about seeing it.
I'll be there to see it.
You will. I was optimizing my answer on things you are guaranteed to see, my friend.
All right. So, we're in this crazy economic environment.
What are you talking about, man?
You hear, people are on the edge. There's fears of recession. There's, inflation's been running amok, but yet and still jobs are still being created. There's a lot of stuff going on. And usually in these kind of environments, newer initiatives or initiatives that could potentially really shake things up tend to get put on the back burner. Mm-hmm. Sustainability could potentially be one of those. But when I think about, and I was just asked this question, I had this really interesting conversation with Don Fluckinger over, I hope I said that right, Fluckinger. Yeah. Fluckinger. I'm going to make sure everybody here, There's an L in there, folks.
Did you say that again? I wasn't
sure. We had this really interesting conversation around green CX, and SAP, of course, was one of the reasons why we're having that conversation. But in the midst of this kind of tumult, economic tumult, usually there's a lot of companies like to kind of go back to go in there, put their head in the corner, and just kind of hunker down and try to maintain. But it also feels like there's an opportunity, if you're truly serious about putting sustainability as a foundational aspect of your business or core to your business, this may be a better time to do that as opposed to retrench. How do you go about? Are your customers kind of asking you about green CX? How do we do this without, for lack of a better term, disrupting some of the things we don't want to disrupt, and making investments when we're not sure of what's going to happen over the next 6 months, 12 months, years? What kind of conversation do you have in that kind of area?
Listen, I think, I'll since you didn't ask, I'll broaden your question slightly, right? Like to say, economic turmoil, let's also add in the pandemic and the other things, right, that are sort of bringing the sort of broader sense of apprehension, anxiety, if you would, right? So I think there's two things, right? One is, look, most of the customers that we're dealing with are looking to build resilient businesses that are for the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, right? So there's two things. One is planning for that long term and the strategic initiatives that they're going to make over the mid to long term that no 6-month or 12-month recession is going to come in the way of, right? Because they're thinking through this from a more strategic standpoint. It's not about like impacting just next quarter and then we find the next hot piece of technology to buy. So sustainability, clearly, those are commitments that they've made. It's like, I don't think the car manufacturers, if you look at the news, are saying, hey, because of the recession coming, I'm going to slow down my plan to be all electric by 2020, 2030. That train has left the station, right? I also think that, one of the things that we've seen, especially in CX, is the ability for the need and the dire need during times like this, and a lot of this was driven more by the pandemic than it was the economy, right? Were what customers realized was, one of the value propositions they were looking for from CX was adaptability, right? As you guys saw, hundreds and hundreds of manufacturing and manufacturers went D2C, right? They opened up a D2C channel because of all of the disruptions in distribution. Well, those aren't going away. Those weren't temporary measures, right? Like as they sort of studied that. Now, I'm not saying they're all giving up their distribution. Many of them, like most companies, will coexist with their distributors, right? But there are new habits we've learned through the pandemic that are habits we want to keep, right? I know we're going to talk about food at some point, so we'll just start now. Through the pandemic in my household, like like anybody else's, eating out was something you didn't do. You did a lot more eating in, right? Cooking in. But post-pandemic, every restaurant's open. We eat out 30 to 40% of as much as we did pre-pandemic. It's just become like something we prefer, right? And it's like we've learned a new muscle. We would have never learned this muscle. We won't be forced into it. So you see a lot more, engagement behaviors, commerce behaviors, service behaviors that the pandemic or the recession or whatever might have induced, but they start to just become better business. So between those two trends of like if you were on a path to do something that drove strategic initiatives like sustainability, like becoming green, our customers we have are not those weren't sort of things I wanted to tout in the news, right? So they've planned for these things. These are things that their boards have walked them through, and that is how the businesses are going to evolve. So, I think the ones are going to stick on. They're going to just stick on and be resilient about it and see it through. Right?
Awesome. Hey, we really appreciate you doing this. I know it was short notice.
All good, man. Anything for you.
It's always nice to see you. By the way,
logic, man.
You should get SAP to fund Samir summer vest line.
Summer vest line. I like
summer
that.
Vest.
That's
specialize, man. Specialize.
Yeah, I have a closet in my office, which is my vest closet. Like I wake up and I'm excited about which one I'm going to use.
Got 134 vests.
I'll get there. I'm on my way. Well, thank you for having me, guys. It's always good to see you. Big hugs to both of you.
Happy 50th.
Thank you.
Big hug.
Absolutely.
We will do it
not even
soon.
SAP comes into existence and you're not even a thought at that point. That's all
that's
my takeaway. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, that's the big
Not even an idea.
How much older we
not
are.
Even an idea.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
All
right.
Right.
Guys. Thanks for having
Love
me.
you.
Later.
Bye.
That was fun.
Oh, I love Samir. What can I say?
I do feel a lot older now, but yeah, it's still fun.
I'm not going to forget that part.
All right. We're going to keep the fun going, continuing, because our next guest is a fun guy too. We've known him for years too.
Yeah.
I think
all of us were thoughts then.
Yeah, well, yeah.
At least.
That's all right.
Even we were old enough to even have thoughts at that point. Right.
I don't want you to know what my thoughts were at that.
Right, but we had them.
There it is. So do you want to do your usual Venerable Paul?
Absolutely.
There it is. All right.
All right. So again, not saying the name to start. So I met this guy many years ago. I was speaking at SugarCon as one of the keynotes. And I was, of course, did my usual, which was to be way too verbose, go way over time, and start to cut into the next speaker's time. I found out that the next speaker had graciously been asked, are you okay? To absolutely let him keep going. And that speaker was again, I'm not saying his name yet, was an investor in Sugar CRM at that time, who later became its CEO. And I not only was I grateful from that first moment, but I knew what a nice human being that person was from the very first time I met him, because I overtalked, right? And he's kept that title as one of the nicest people I've ever met for years and years and years. In fact, when back in the day of his CEO-dom at Sugar CRM, we voted this gentleman the nicest CEO in the industry. Now he is no longer at Sugar. He's investing in a number of places, having a great time consulting, living his life. His name is Larry Augustin, and he's one of our favorite people in the world.
And
here he is. There's the man.
I don't know what to do after that intro, Paul. Thanks.
I was trying to actually speak so long you'd offer me some more time.
Well, that was purely you were a lot more interesting than I was. So I was thinking of the audience when I had that in mind.
You were good, man. I remember your speech.
You were the one that they wanted to see. So
you were great.
I was happy. I always loved listening to your talks. It's fantastic. So
that was one of the conferences I always enjoyed the most, and it was while you were CEO there, was SugarCon. I think I keynoted it like 3 or 4 times actually, and I absolutely loved doing it. And I actually had the best audience reaction in my entire history from SugarCon. I kind of knew I was on fire, and you did audience ratings. There were 800 people, I remember. And you did audience ratings. I don't know how many. It was a couple hundred with respect. And my average score out of 5 was 5.
Yeah.
Right. It was it was amazing.
Yeah, we were always happy to have you back. So
I was always happy to come back. And then can I tell people about that one other thing we used to do with the Irish whiskey?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. This is the other thing. I should have brought it up. Larry and I both love Irish whiskey, and we, not coincidentally, I guess, have the same favorite Irish whiskey store, which happens to be in Dublin. It's called Celtic Whiskey. And so we were talking about this at SugarCon one day, and I don't remember, which one. It was a long time back, but we determined that at the next SugarCon, we would bring each other bottles of Irish whiskey. And for probably ultimately 5 years straight, until things just changed, we did that every year. And I'm not going to get into the story now because it would take away from your actual time, but there was one story I am happy to tell people. If you ask me for it, I'll tell you literally, I'll write it out, about what Larry did for me once that was astonishing when it came to Irish whiskey. But I'll leave that for another day. But I love doing that with you. I mean, that was like one of my
No, it's fantastic. I got some great things to try. You know, Paul, you're the
you
this. I mean,
actually, no.
You know, you have like 100 times what I have. So
yeah, but your knowledge is amazing. Your choices blew me away.
A few. I'll say this is where I'll go for quality over quantity.
Well, I just want to throw out something. This is going back at least a decade or so. It was at a CRM Evolution conference. I don't know which one, but it was one of the first ones where I started talking about Amazon at length. And I forget exactly what I touched on. A lot of different things that Amazon was doing, but Larry was in the room, and he was kind of listening. And after I was done, we got a chance to talk. And Larry, I don't know if you remember the conversation. We talked about should Amazon potentially would Amazon buy either FedEx or UPS?
Yes,
because it just felt like they were going to have to do something on their own when it comes to shipping. You remember that conversation?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? That was, we were having that discussion about Amazon becoming, where do they go next? Right. And my argument was that they had to become vertically integrated. And if you think about Amazon, that's one of the strategies of Amazon. What is it? Jeff Bezos says, your margin is my opportunity. Yep. Right. And if you think about that, every step of the way where they can take over someone else's gross margin dollars, they're good at it. And when it comes to logistics, delivery, I mean, that was what Amazon was built on. And taking that to the next mile all the way to the house. And they first of all, they get all that gross margin, but then they get the end-to-end control. And the thing that I didn't understand at the time is that Amazon would rather reinvent the business process and the capability from scratch to do it in a new way, with new technology and make it better than buy something that exists that may already have a lot of the infrastructure in place, but which was designed and built on technologies of 50 years ago, 40 years ago, decades ago, right? And so, you see ultimately they're doing it themselves. They've built out all the tools, the fleet. They're going. Their goal is to go all electric. In terms of delivery fleet, but the idea that someone, the delivery is there. You get a picture of exactly where the box is, right, when it's delivered. But sort of reinventing that and owning that supply chain end to end. Yeah. No, I remember that conversation as I watched them kind of move down that path. My first thought was they would acquire it, but again, they're willing to invest for the long term and own it. And so, yeah, conversation. And you ultimately wrote a book there on Amazon, didn't you?
Well, I was supposed to, but I could never do it because they were always doing something new, and it frustrated me to the point where I could never finish. Like, why did they got to keep doing this stuff? So I just stopped. But that was before you even worked there. This is how far before.
It is interesting. I know you spent time there, more time than now, and then I ended up over at AWS running the applications businesses.
I know, amazing.
Right. But you spent 10 years as what, the CEO of Sugar, right?
Spent about 10 years over at Sugar CRM, and you know, that was my introduction really to the customer relationship management business. And I had not been really at the applications layer as much before, right? But I really, really love the space because you can have such great strategic conversations with businesses and CEOs. And it's all about, how do I make your customers happier? How do I make your customers love you more? How do I grow your business? I mean, those are, who doesn't want to do any of those things? Yeah. Right. And so, and people care so much about their customers and all these businesses that it was always such a fun place. And it's part of the reason why, you know, post that, I've continued to spend the time and, you know, love seeing what you guys are doing and staying interested in the space. So yeah, you know, just learn to love it.
Well, you know, there was one thing that I know you were noodling around, and which was, and it directly applies to, let's say, historical or evolution of historical CRM and other systems like it, which was, you are thinking in terms of what you're calling systems of action, which
yes,
can kind of dig into that a little bit, because I think the customer-facing world would love to hear it.
And I don't think this narrative is terribly isn't all that original or new, but many of the systems that we use to run companies today were built because we had to record things, keep track of things, report on things. And if you talk to the VP of sales, and you know, in a big company, you often hear, well, I need to know what my team is doing. I need to know what's happening. I need to be able to forecast. And those are all things that are important to the business. But most of the systems that were built for decades were designed to help management and to help the business run. They weren't really designed to help an individual get work done. And that's a change that we're going through. And people have been talking about this change for a while. I think we still have a long way to go to get there. And I call this the transition to systems of action, systems that help someone get the job done. Right. You know, you're a salesperson, you're about to go into a customer call. You know, is the first thing on your mind thinking, how am I going to forecast this deal? No, you're not thinking, you're thinking, you know, what does this person care about? What do I have to convey to them? You know, how am I going to help their business? Let me understand their business. Let me have a conversation with them. And, that's true across most enterprise apps. Is they're not great at helping people get work done. They're still mostly about recording the fact that someone did something. You know, I even go back to simple examples like calendaring. You know, you think about it. The traditional calendar that we all use is the place where we record what is on our schedule. But what we really want is something to help us create our schedule, right? A system where you know, it compares open times, it suggests when we should be meeting, it helps us schedule things. It's a transformation in how we how these systems help us. And again, I push on this in the idea of systems of action, and it was always something I wanted to push at Sugar CRM. And you know, I think we did a good job of doing some of it, but just in general, a long, long way to go. And I push this at AWS for applications there as well. It's just, how do we get out of the business of just, you know, having people record what they do and helping them do things? You know, another principle that I throw into that is this idea of amount of data, and software loves to ask people for things. So you spend your whole time filling out fields or putting data in. And I always challenged my teams whenever they'd say, well, we need to ask, we can ask the user for this. I'd always challenge with them, how do you not ask the user for that? Shouldn't we know that? And you think about what we can do with natural language processing, AI today, the ability to follow what someone is doing. We can learn an awful lot and figure it out without having to ask the person things along the way. And You know, Google is a great example of that. You know, you don't spend a lot of time putting information into Google, but you sort of do because it's a side effect of doing things, right? But you ask Google things, it gives you a lot of information back. And that's the way we ought to be thinking about applications. So,
well, you know,
yeah,
to your point, actually,
concept.
to your point on that, the latter on shouldn't we just know it? One of the things I know that some of the newer SFA type products are focusing around is that, you know, so for example, I think I'm almost sure I'm right. Microsoft Viva Sales, which is kind of one of their newer products, has kind of automatic data population, I guess I'll call it, meaning rather than the salesperson asking and then typing in what they need to type in, it just takes care of that for you. It's just done, right?
And just be done.
Yeah, and I think now again, I'm a little hazy on this. I just have to go by. I'd have to go in my notes. I think also Oracle Fusion Sales, which is a new product coming at some point, does that too. Although I may be wrong about that. So, your thinking is actually starting to get inculcated into the actual building of products now.
One of the things we introduced when I was at AWS was this product, Contact Lens Real Time, that sat along with our Contact Center Connect product. And that would listen to the conversation in real time, doing speech to text, doing an AI analysis and NLP on that conversation, and then looking up in the knowledge base relevant information related to the conversation and displaying that information to the call center agent in real time. The idea being that you know, a call center agent sitting there, you're having a conversation with a person. Do you really want that person to say, okay, hold on a second, go do a search, look up something, and then read an answer back to you? That isn't a great experience. You want that agent to be able to do what they're a person. You want them to act like a person. You want to talk to them. You want to have a conversation with them, right? And the more you can enable that person to have the information they need at their fingertips without having to go search, without having to take time away from the focus on the person that they're talking to have to go look that up, the more you can enable that personal experience, right? And so that's an example of you know, where we're beginning to bring this in, and that's an example of one of the things that we did when I was at AWS that I think that falls into that bucket. Yeah, so we're making progress. I think we're making progress, but it just, you know, people have been talking about it for a while, and it just seems like we have so far to go. And I think it's easy sometimes to lose track of this idea that, you know, the real job is that poor person is trying to get something done. Help them. You know, don't make more work for them.
Right. So I want to go in a slightly different direction, but I want you to focus on what you just said. You know, you want to be able to help folks get stuff done. So you spent roughly about a decade as a CEO of a small software company, Sugar. And then you took a little time off, and then you jumped in and you became, VP level at a behemoth with AWS. Can you compare and contrast, like, what it was like to go from being the CEO of a small company to being, a VP level at a huge company? What adjustments did you have to make? And then, which one do you prefer? Do you see yourself ever going back to either one of those kind of things?
They're both, they're both great experiences, and I've just been, I think, really lucky in my career to be able to do both and do all those things. And one of the things, if you kind of look at my career, and I give this, I don't know if this is great career advice for people, but I give it to people, which is do things you enjoy and do things you learn from. For me, I tend to do different things. at different stages of my career because I like learning new things. I love the challenge of something new and I like learning from it. And part of the reason I went to AWS was I wanted to learn about that organization and understand. I mean, they're just fantastic at things. And if you're in the tech world today, you're probably building on AWS infrastructure. I mean, it is fueled a great part of the entrepreneurial development of new technologies today and new companies. So I wanted to get inside that. And I really enjoyed seeing and being able to operate at that scale. That was one of the things that was fun and interesting. You know, in the smaller company, you have, it's this interesting contrast. A smaller company, you can tend to have control of everything, which is, hey, we're going to do a product. I can decide we're going to do a product. We're going to go launch it. I can drive that across the whole organization. I can make everything happen from sales to marketing to engineering to do it. You know, and you can pull all that together, but you don't necessarily have the reach to do and the scale to do everything you want. At a place like AWS and Amazon, okay, you're in a bigger company. You have more infrastructure and constraints around you. There are expectations because you're building an AWS product. There are various things you have to plug into. So you're a little bit more constrained in terms of flexibility about doing all those things. Although I will say Amazon is a great place for pushing people to just have the flexibility and get things done. But you still have to fit within, the structure of the organization. But you have immense resources to pull on, right? You can go. I can go to 50. And I do this regularly. We go to 50 of the largest companies in the world and talk to them about product ideas. How can we be helpful? What can we bring to you? We've got this new thing where we want to bring out to market this new idea. I have the instant access to do that and have the reach and have the scale to make some of those things happen. So it's different. They are both fun. They are both interesting. I find personally that I think one of the big challenges in bringing new technology out to the world today is sales and marketing, which is interesting because I'm an engineer by training. I think it's actually gotten easier to build the technology. I think it's gotten harder to get it in the hands of customers. And so I personally find that I like to get my hands very deep on the sales and marketing side because reaching customers is actually, I think, the biggest problem in bringing out a new technology today. And so in spite of the reach of a big company, I find sometimes that it's harder for big companies to do that because they have so much installed base. They have so much weight behind existing products. So it's fascinating. One of the things I like about the smaller companies, in many ways, I think you have more of an opportunity to put all the weight behind some new ideas. So it's really, really fascinating contrasts between the two.
So let's take this, because look, I mean, really, you've had a lot of let's say managerial administrative positions, but if I look over your history, you've been let's call it a very wise investor in a lot of things. And that's kind of where your history is. And you've made a lot of very, very good bets, let's just say. And
well, that's because we don't talk about the bad ones.
Oh, okay. So what? No, I'm not going to.
No, I knew this venture fund that used to have on their webpage. They have all the good ones. They used to have the page called "The Ones That Got Away," and they had the list of things they didn't do. But yeah, no. Look. I enjoy it, and I've been lucky enough to be part of some good ones there. So you were saying, Paul,
what's your strategy? Because I looked at your current number of companies that you're investing in, and they're so diverse in terms of what they are. There's no actual common thread I can see in what they do. So that my question is, how do you even determine this? How do you pick? How do you think about it? I honestly couldn't read a thing into a I couldn't find a pattern in anything.
I look for people that are excited about what they do, all in with it, and solving an interesting problem where people kind of know they have a problem. And there are some common things there. For example, I've got this business I'm working with, People Rain, that does the virtual agent for IT and HR help desk. And, a lot of that ties to my experience with call center, customer experience, that space, because it's really about helping employees get information. It's also a AI, what I call an AI native company, which is reimagining an application sort of built from the ground up around AI. That's a theme I like. I'm doing another one, another company I've spent time with, OpenBB, completely different space. If you're familiar with the Bloomberg terminal.
Yeah.
So there are like 300,000 users of Bloomberg terminals today. And that's because the Bloomberg terminal is a $20,000 plus per year thing. But what's happened in recent years? Retail investing has gone big. Retail investors now drive markets. And there are tens of millions of people doing stock picking, investing as individuals. What's the Bloomberg terminal for them? They don't have access to that. And the thing that these guys are doing with OpenBB is democratizing access to financial information, making it available. So imagine tens of millions of users, with access to something that used to be really expensive that only a few people had. I love those kind of drive the price way down and go broad with things. It's a little bit, if like, remember the computer? It's just, some of us are old enough to remember PCs when they first came out and things. I don't. You guys may not be old enough to, but the fact that the fact that a piece, but this idea that a computer, became this thing that you could buy, originally for a couple $1,000s, and now, for $100, or the prices are just crazy. But as the price goes down, the market gets big. I love that concept in businesses, where you take something that only a few people could afford or benefit, but then you really lower the price, and now you make it available to mass numbers of people, and you hugely grow the market. I love businesses like that. Because I think I think they make life better for everyone, because you've taken something that used to be the domain of a few, and you've now enabled many people to have it. I think they make life better for everyone. I think they're a fun place to be because of that. And I like businesses like that. So if you see me doing some kind of things that feel a little consumer retail, it's probably something like that.
Okay.
That I like. Okay. One of the ones I also told you I'm doing, this company recently invested in, that does flywheel batteries for residential. Where'd that come from? Well, today, if you wanted to do battery backup for your home, you're buying expensive lithium-ion batteries. It's not a technology that can go mass market. This flywheel battery technology can go mass market. It's a tenth the price, and it's something that you could imagine every small home, in the world having one of these things, and significantly improving their carbon footprint, and improving their access to energy and costs, because you could put one of these things in. So it's really, those are fun places to be.
It's amazing.
Wow.
I'm amazed.
So, yeah. So I'm lucky enough to get to see a lot of these fun things.
I'm really curious as to what a flywheel battery looks like.
It's like, 10 feet across and 6 feet high, and there's this huge several ton. It's not metal; it's layered composites of things. But this thing is spinning at 10,000 RPMs, and it stores energy.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Absolutely, it's been a great conversation. But I want to hit you up with some quick ones.
Sure.
Okay, so what happens with Twitter? Does it get bought by Elon? Do they sue and he has to buy? Does somebody else come in? What do you think will happen with this? This is a big mess.
First of all, it's a big mess. it's a big distraction. To be fair, I'm not sure how a Tesla or SpaceX investor kind of puts up with distraction around the business there. But anyway, it's tough. I also think it's really tough to force somebody to buy something if they have walked away from it. You know, what do? You end up owning the thing that you said, yeah, well, I kind of thought I wanted to own it at the beginning, but then I decided it really wasn't worth it. But now I have it. You know, how are you in a position to get excited about the thing you own and really tell people you want to push it? So I think it's a really odd place to end up. I also think the guy has a contract there, and Twitter's not going to let him just walk away. So I think you end up paying something there, but I think it'd be odd to end up owning the business in that place. I don't know. I think Twitter has bigger problems to solve. Okay. I do a lot on Twitter. I have a lot of Twitter followers. I post things. I don't post a lot, but Twitter has an interesting reach, but it's also this place where it's a very caustic environment. It reminds me of the old early, internet bulletin board days, where you had, a lot of trolling and it's not really a great environment. And I think, I don't know how to fix that where Twitter is. Back when we ran, some of you remember I had a business Slashdot that we ran back in the VA Linux days, and they had a great team that acquired Slashdot. And I got to tell you, those guys knew what they were doing. They had this moderation system that I still think is one of the premier ways of moderating content. And it was based on multiple levels of moderation, and you could read posts at different moderation levels. So basically, if you said, give me only the cream of the crop, you could see it. And if you wanted to say, give me all of the, all the worst stuff all the way down, you could do that too. You had the choice, right? And Twitter doesn't have that ability, and I think it's a problem for the platform.
I mean, generally, that caustic environment is a problem for every social platform at this point. Look, even the New York Post comment sections are horrible to read. Every single thing you read on every single thing that involves a comment section.
Paul, you probably get some of this, but when I talk to companies occasionally that are trying to figure out community strategies and how to build and what to put together there, and one of the things I tell them in that process is you got to understand, you open things up on the internet, you run this caustic environment problem. You need to make sure that whatever you're using there, you have thought about that problem, and you have an approach, and you're prepared for it. And if you don't, you end up with these caustic environments. I think Twitter's got kind of that problem right now.
Yeah, huge.
Well, and it sounds like LinkedIn is actually starting to have that same kind of problem based on a conversation we had yesterday in our, what do we call that thing again?
Even more joyous hour.
Yeah, that.
Even more joyous hour.
Well, started out as it's our happy hour that went from happy hour in 2020 to happier hour in 2021 to even more joyous hour in 2022. We escalate each year. We've had 132 of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right. Yeah. So this is the last second to last question. So you saw where Netflix is gonna do some sort of ad supported model because the subscription model is not working out for them anymore. They're losing subscribers. They chose Microsoft as an advertising partner over Google.
Yeah.
Do you see, because I think they lost another 970,000 subscribers based on their earnings. Do you see an opportunity for Microsoft to just buy them outright and make them part of their content arm?
I think somebody buys Netflix. Okay. I don't know if I know if I'm capable of predicting who, but I think somebody buys Netflix. The thing we have to remember about Netflix is, I don't know the numbers exactly off the top of my head, but I know the relative numbers. Netflix has more subscribers than any cable company in the US ever had. And so when we sit here and Netflix is getting slammed because they lost, what was quite frankly a small percentage of those subscribers, they still have a far greater reach than any cable company or any of these media companies, have had. And that is a huge, huge asset. Now I think Netflix has some fundamental transformation things that they're going to have to go through here to do that. But I think it's a hugely valuable asset. And if the stock price stays depressed, somebody's likely to go after that. By the way, I also wouldn't put it past them to figure out things. That's a business remember that business started in the DVD rental business, right? Don't underestimate their willingness to transform as the customer base transforms. So I would not put it past Reed, to figure out a next step there that gets it done. I think it gets harder as you get bigger. You got to, moving in a huge installed base is tougher than moving a small installed base. But the industry is changing. There's much more competition from subscription services.
Yep.
There's a lot more opportunity around ad-supported services, and so they're going to go do that. But it wouldn't surprise me to see somebody end up picking up them as an asset.
Well, I have $40 on it right now. I already have $40 down for it.
There you go. There
put
you
it
go.
In last night, and I'm willing to double that.
Well, Brent, this is like you asked that question, but it's a little bit of I don't know, say personal interest of mine. My daughter has a dual degree in film and computer engineering. So we're it's fascinating. So we are the family that sits around and we analyze what's happening with services like Netflix and movies and such. So this is kind of a personal hobby, is entertainment and media movies. Oh yeah,
nice.
I'll be happy. We should just do a movie review segment.
I'd do that in a minute.
We may have to have a conversation.
Yeah. My daughter and I want to do this weekend streaming as
Wow.
Ooh. We may have.
There you go.
I think we will have a conversation with you and your daughter.
Well, wait a minute.
Very
you
soon.
may have a conversation based on the answer to this last question, because I don't think I've ever asked this of him before. Have you?
Well, we kind of know where it's going to go.
I kind of feel safe.
Right.
I feel like because of where he lives, we're probably.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm losing the connection here.
We have one question we ask each of our guests, and even though we've had a fascinating, great conversation, and we've known you for years, depending on you answer this next question, we may never speak to you again. Not that there's any pressure or anything.
No pressure. No pressure.
But do you have a favorite NFL team?
Oh God. You know, I'm sorry. Every time I see you come on with the Rams, year.
Maybe there's more than one wrong answer. I mean, I don't know.
Okay. So I grew up in Southern Ohio.
Oh, okay.
I grew up
Southern Ohio, though.
I grew up with this team that at one point in their history had the distinction of having the worst, winning percentage, the highest, the worst winning percentage among any professional sports team, not just football, but if you threw in baseball, hockey, basketball, and football. There was a decade-long period where the Cincinnati Bengals had the worst winning percentage across all major league sports. But I do remember the years, and some of you may know this, that there was a gentleman named Kenny Anderson.
Yeah.
Who was the quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you know who his quarterback coach was at Cincinnati?
Yes.
No.
Oh, wasn't it Bill Walsh?
It was Bill Walsh.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly. Exactly. So I always have a little bit of a soft place in my. Something's talking to me.
You're good.
So I always have a little bit of a soft spot for the Bengals. Okay?
I have one too.
Now,
considering we beat them in the Super Bowl,
look, I always expect the Bengals to lose, and there you go.
I like them,
but I have to say that so that was kind of where I grew up. But I've been in the Bay Area a long time, and we've spent a lot of time with 49ers and Raiders, and we're kind of a lot of the Raiders fans. Raiders.
you go in the black hole.
Jim Plunkett is a good family friend.
Oh, really? Jim?
Oh, yeah. Yes, Jim. Good family friend.
I used to love watching him.
Yeah, and I always felt sorry for Jim all those years in the my mother's side of the family is New England, Boston. So they were always Patriots fans, and you could always mention Jim's name to them, and they just shake their head and they say, "Oh, I feel so sorry for that guy. He got beat up all those years there." And
he was their number one pick, right?
Yeah.
And he is the only Super Bowl MVP quarterback to not be in the Hall of Fame.
Really?
He won 2 of them, right?
He won 2. I believe he was MVP for at least one of those, and he is not in the Hall of Fame.
He deserves to be in there.
And so every year there's kind of this little, it goes around amongst friends and family, and a bunch of the Raiders, the ex-players and such, and there's a little bit of a lobby for him to make it into that Hall of Fame. Yeah. Well, he had all those bad, it's his career record. Like he had awful years there, particularly with the Patriots,
which is okay with us if he had bad.
Yeah, with that. By the way, that is the only wrong answer is the New England Patriots, right? Anything else, like I don't root for football, is fine.
Yeah, it's fine, right? But you can't say Patriots. Okay,
New England Patriots, and you're banned.
Yeah.
We banned. We actually banned 2 U.S. presidents from coming back.
Coming back from what?
I'm not saying.
Well, no, you're safe, and we really thoroughly enjoyed that. It's been way too long. I'm so glad because I think we were sitting at a Dreamforce at a hotel lobby, just kind of talking.
Right. Well, I will tell you though, that idea about you and your daughter, we will be coming back to you on that specifically.
That sounds great, actually.
Yes, very soon.
Excellent. It's always fun to spend time with you guys. Thank you. It's been It's been far too long, and thank you for thinking of me. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, are you kidding? It's awesome. Thanks for coming on too.
All right. So on behalf of Larry Augustin, I am Brent Leary.
I am Paul Greenberg.
And we cannot say goodbye. I was going to show my my
No.
happy birthday to Rosie Greer.
I mean, he was a
Rosie
Giant too, so I like him. Look, I'm a fan. He was a New York Giant also. So
by the way, my dad grew up with Rosie. Rosie almost married my aunt, but that's besides the point.
Wow.
Yeah, little known facts. I'm trying to find Minnie and trying to stall. So now we can say hi to Minnie and goodbye to you. And we will see you Monday for a very special announcement. See you.
Bye.